Cape Breton Island, known across Canada and around the world for its natural beauty, vibrant culture, and friendly people. I'm Laura Bain, and I want to share everything Cape Breton has to offer. Join me as we hike the Highlands.
But one that everybody wants to see is probably our moose.
I'd love to see a moose.
Taste the flavors.
I'm sure you're really excited to get into that lobster.
It tastes so fresh.
And meet the people.
My name is Stephen. Welcome to Escasoni.
This is Postcards from Cape Breton Island. Majestic Cape Breton Island boasts a storied and compelling history. Luckily, there are a number of museums and heritage sites to visit where you can be transported back in time in order to take it all in. One of the most notable is the Highland Village in Iona. It's an outdoor living history museum with costumed animators that tell the story of Gaelic settlement in Nova Scotia, and it's our first stop. The story starts as we head down a path and travel to the late 1700s and the Isle of Barra in Scotland. We spot a friendly woman named Katrina who, fortunately for us, speaks English as well as Gaelic.
Sulak, and welcome into my world. Kimera Hashif, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, thank you.
I'm the woman of this house. Hick of a side, come on in. We'll have a Kaylee, have a visit.
I'd love to see your
Okay,
home.
come on. Welcome inside.
Oh, it's dark in here.
Oh, yes.
Katrina's home is a Hebridean-style black house, typical of the Scottish Highlands at this time. It's round with thick stone walls, a packed dirt floor, and a thatched roof. I love its rustic feel.
I can smell a fire
That's
in
what
here.
you're smelling is the peat. If you do not have the peat, you can burn cow dung.
Okay.
But most people would have access to the bogs where the peat can be cut. It's bad luck to let your fires go out, so the fire is burning all the time.
Katrina is costumed and dressed for warmth. She wears a linen petticoat down to her knees, a piece of plaid over her shoulders, and a headscarf.
And it's just a kerch, just a square of white linen. And when you become a married woman yourself, you'll have your head covered.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hope not.
Oh, you have to.
I'm not sure I'm ready for life as a Gael in 1700 Scotland, so I say goodbye to Katrina and head further down the path, moving ahead in time. I'm welcomed into the home of Katrina Anna. We're back on Cape Breton Island, but it's the 1800s. It's cozy and warm with the fireplace going.
Thank you for welcoming me into your home here in the mid-1800s. And you've got a spinning wheel here in front of us, and you're going to show us how to do some spinning, is that right?
That's for sure, I am. I'm going to show you how to attach. First, we have to start by attaching the wool here. We have a fluffy part, and this part is a little bit fluffy, so we want to attach it. And we just overlap it a little bit.
So you're binding the fluffy part of the wool that's been
Yes.
come from the sheep, and then you're binding that
Yeah.
to turn it into a wool that you could knit with or
Yeah.
make something of it.
Actually, this part after it's spun is called yarn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So this is wool off the sheep, off the beautiful white sheep we have in the field here, actually.
We're turning wool
So-
into yarn.
Yes. I'm just holding this, overlapping, and I turn the wheel. When the pedal comes up to touch my foot, I push it down again.
Right, and you're getting that going with your hand to start it off, and then
Yes.
you're keeping the momentum going with your foot.
As it spins, it strengthens it.
Okay.
And then you can stretch it. You see how I'm stretching
So
it
it's
like
spinning what you're holding in your hand. It's kind of binding it into like a tight rope.
that? Exactly, yes.
Now, it seems like something someone could get used to doing if they couldn't see, though, with your eyes closed, but I bet it would take a lot of practice.
It does take a lot of practice.
Visiting here, it's easy to imagine that it's the 17 or 1800s. The Highland Village sits on a sweeping landscape overlooking the Brodeur Lake. Like any proper village, it has a general store, a church, a blacksmith, and more. I follow the sound of singing and discover a milling frolic. Milling frolics were both practical and social. Men and women would sit around a table singing and pounding wet wool cloth in order to shrink it. The tradition is still alive today, although now it's more about celebrating Gaelic culture than shrinking wool cloth. Continuing down the path, I find some Highland sheep and cattle grazing in a pasture. The museum's resident horse, Myra, is a visitor favorite, and I stopped to feed her some hay.
Yes, you know what I've got for you, don't you? I have some hay. Hello. Hi, pretty girl.
Speaking of which, I'm starting to get hungry, and I've got an invite into the early 20th century home of Florrie. As I arrive, she's just pulling a fresh loaf of bannock from the oven. It's delicious with butter and a hot cup of tea.
Bannock is it's a staple around here. It's the bread that we eat.
Cape Breton is known for its beauty and hospitality, and a visit to the Highland Village is a great place to start. Badek is a small, quaint village on the shore of the Brodeur Lake. Known as an inland sea because of its mix of fresh and salt water, the Brodeur Lake is a popular sailing destination, and that's why we're here. I board the Amoeba, a schooner built to hold about 40 passengers. It's a chilly day, so I'm one of about 24 on board. Captain John Bryson gives us a warm welcome.
Very proud to let you know this boat was built by my dad. He built it launched it in 1977, 10 years to build, and actually this vessel has been to the Caribbean already 5 times. The vessel you're on is 67 feet overall. It's got a full keel, not a little fin in the middle. If you saw this boat out of the water, it would shock you. So when my dad built it, he also put 12 tons in the very bottom of the keel. So basically when the boat heels over like it's trying to, the more that keel wants to bring you back. But what you got to remember, it is impossible to tip over.
Safety message out of the way, we set sail. The Brodeur Lake is about 100 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide. It's surrounded by rolling hills and dotted with islands.
Now we're going to go to that point where the wind is lighter and we'll be able to show you the Bell House.
The beauty of the place is what charmed inventor Alexander Graham Bell into building a home here. His grand summer residence high on a hill is a highlight of the tour. Built in the late 1800s, it's still owned and maintained by his descendants. The Brodeur Lake is a designated UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Its unspoiled coastline is full of wildlife. It's also a breeding area for bald eagles. Captain John has trained a few of them to come when called for a piece of fish. In a swift move, an eagle appears, dives for the fish, and carries it off.
This pair are over 35 years old. When I was here 30 years ago, they had their white head, which takes 4 to 5.
And it's a male and female.
Male and female that mate for life. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, they certainly do.
Near the end of the sail, just for fun, Captain John lets me steer the ship.
Where am I taking us? I need some. Can anyone see where we're going?
I haven't gotten a lot out of the sightseeing part of the tour, so this is really fun. I'm just not sure I'm the best fit for the job.
Awesome. First blind captain ever.
Sailing on the Amoeba was a great way to check out the Brodeur Lake, but by the time we dock, I'm ready for land and some warmth. After the break, we travel to Escasoni First Nation and take part in a smudging ceremony.
So I start by doing my...
Cleanse your hands first.
Do my hands.
Yes. Then you smudge your head to have good thoughts.
Postcards from Cape Breton Island will be right back. Welcome back to Postcards from Cape Breton Island. We find some sunshine further south on the shore of the Brodeur Lake at Escasoni First Nation. Escasoni is home to the largest Mi'kmaq community in the world. Escasoni Cultural Journeys offers visitors the chance to experience Mi'kmaq culture and traditions. On a wooded path by a crackling fire, I meet up with interpreter Steve Julian for my first experience.
My name is Stephen. Welcome to Escasoni.
Oh, hi, Stephen. I'm Laura. It's nice to meet you. Thank you.
No problem. Would you like to come have a smudge of my teepee?
Yes, I'd love that.
Steve is one of many Mi'kmaq cultural interpreters here who provide a hands-on experience of this area's 10,000-year-old culture.
I have an avalon shell in my hand with some white sage in it. As you see, I have an eagle feather here.
Okay.
And the reason why I have an eagle feather is because the eagle is sacred to our people. And the reason why the eagle is so sacred to our people is because he flies the highest of all birds. So for that reason, we believe the eagle carries our prayers to the Creator. Have you heard of what a smudging ceremony is?
I've heard of smudging, but I don't think I really know that much about it.
You would see it mainly in ceremonies like sweat lodge and naming ceremonies, pipe ceremonies, etc. Here at Goat Island, what I do with the smudges, the sage, is I cleanse the negative air around us. There is no right or wrong way to smudge. Everybody has different teachings. Everybody has different beliefs. One of the teachings I pass along with everybody is I take my glasses off when I smudge. The reason behind that is because your eyes are believed to be the gateway to your spirit. And if you're wearing your glasses, you're creating that barrier for these other good spirits to come help you.
I can take my glasses off too then.
Steve lights the sage and it starts to smoke.
You can smell that right away as soon as you light it.
Beautiful smell to it.
Using the eagle feather to fan the smoke, Steve smudges himself first.
So I would cleanse my hands in the smoke at first. Then I smudge my head to have good thoughts. Smudge my eyes to see good things. My mouth to speak good things. My ears to hear good things. And my whole being.
Then it's my turn.
It's almost like taking a bath in the smoke. Okay.
Yeah.
So I start by doing my...
Cleanse your hands first.
Do my hands.
Yes. Then you would smudge your head to have good thoughts. Your eyes to see good things. Your mouth to speak good things. Your ears to hear good things. And then your whole being.
After the smudging, Steve, who's a contemporary powwow singer, plays a song he wrote entitled Dappy.
The song is in Mi'kmaq. You're singing in Mi'kmaq?
Yes.
What are you saying? What's the song about?
The words in that song are Begasedamek Geluk in Besun, Amalke Winin. And in Mi'kmaq that translates to we bring the good medicine. Dance for us.
So you're a contemporary powwow drummer. What is that?
Well, contemporary powwow style singing is what you would see at contest powwows. It's there's a lot to it. Especially when you're singing, there's you gotta do what you call upbeat singing, and that's when you're drumming. It's when your drumstick reaches a 90-degree angle. It's when you start singing.
Right.
And if you're singing when your drumstick is hitting, you call that on a downbeat. So the best way to explain that would be the crow hop look. I don't sing until my stick reaches up here, and that's the whole reason behind contemporary powwow singing. It's more of a upbeat, up-tempo type of thing, and it gets the dancers into the song and makes them dance harder. This isn't a Mi'kmaq instrument. That's one thing that I tell people. We never used to use this instrument for our social and traditional songs. We used the instrument called the jigamahan and hand drums. So the big drum here, the Mi'kmaq people only been singing with this for about 40 years now. And the powwow is still kind of new to our people. We adapted it into our culture.
Another part of the Escasoni cultural experience is walking a guided trail which circles Goat Island. Along the way, there are stations where interpreters share Mi'kmaq history and tradition, including hunting and fishing techniques. I don't have time to experience everything, but before I go, I meet up with Mi'kmaq cultural interpreter Natasha Herney.
Hi Laura, my name is Natasha and we're going to be doing the friendship dance. It's called Guanu Day. It's one of the dances that we do when we trade with other tribes. So would you like to join us?
I'd love to. I'm not a good dancer, but I'll give it a try. I join 3 other dancers who are dressed in traditional clothing. We hold hands in a circle, moving our arms and stepping one leg in and out in unison as the whole circle moves counterclockwise while Natasha plays the drum and sings. I only partly get the hang of it, but lucky for me, they say they'll accept friends who can't dance. From Escasoni, we travel north to Englishtown, where I'll be staying the night at Cabot Shores Wilderness Resort. Owner Paul Weinberg greets me and fills me in on this unique, eco-friendly retreat.
We call Cabot Shores a wilderness resort and retreat center. And we have people from all over the world coming here. And they're really coming to Cape Breton and the Cabot Trail. And they use this as kind of a gathering place. And we do everything from hikes and kayaking to retreats, yoga retreats, and we've worked with a number of different groups from different cultures.
And so when people come here to stay, what sort of options do they have for accommodations and things they can do?
It depends on their taste for adventure and comfort and privacy. So they can do anything from stay in a kind of traditional chalet or lodge room to a treetop village where we have domes up in the air looking out at the ocean, and Mongolian yurts and a cedar yurt. There's also camping. So we're right on Indian Brook on the south boundary, and on the east boundary we have Church Pond in the Atlantic. So people can swim and kayak and boat and be close to the water and close to the wilderness.
They also offer a variety of wellness practices which make good use of the surrounding natural beauty, like guided contemplative walks and meditation sessions. The food is local and organic, and roughly 30% of the resort's power comes from solar energy.
And you've been here for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Where did you guys come from?
We came originally, most recently from Massachusetts.
What did you like so much about Cape Breton that you just wanted to stay here?
There's a feeling of emptiness. There's space to have adventures. Barbara, my partner and wife, said, where can we go that won't be all overdeveloped? And I also liked, as soon as I got here, we made close connections with the Mi'kmaq. They've kind of vision holders with us of what this place could be along Indian Brook. And so we really liked the connection we could make with people across different cultures. You know, the Mi'kmaq and the Scottish Gaelic, as well as the French Acadian cultures.
When your guests stay here, what do you hope that they take away?
Really this connection that's available to nature and to each other. And so that Cape Breton is a really special place. And so what we hope is they take some of the hospitality that you can experience.
A welcome treat at Cabot Shores is a nighttime soak in one of their many outdoor hot tubs. It's just what this weary traveler needs before bed. The next morning before I head out, Paul invites me to join a few other guests who are making fresh apple cider with wild apples found on the property. My job is to pile handfuls of apples into a large wooden cider press. Then I take a turn twisting a crank that presses and squeezes out the juice from the apples. Paul strains the golden cider and pours us all a cup. That's good. It's definitely the freshest apple cider I've ever had. It would be easy to stay at Cabot Shores longer, but we've got more adventures to get to. Coming up, we visit the Cape Breton Highlands National Park and boil lobster on a beach.
I'm going to detach the thumb part.
Yeah.
Ouch, the lobster's kind of sharp.
Yes, it is.
Postcards from Cape Breton Island will return. You're watching Postcards from Cape Breton Island. A visit to Cape Breton Island isn't complete without traveling the Cabot Trail. It's a winding, cliff-hugging highway that wraps around the northern tip. offering dramatic views of the Highlands on one side and the Atlantic Ocean on the other. The drive is world famous, with many look-off spots to stop and take pictures. It also passes through Cape Breton Highlands National Park, a hiker and camper's paradise. I'm meeting up with Courtney Poirier, a Parks Canada heritage presenter, to hike Le Brodeur Trail.
So, hiking is one of the reasons that people come to Highlands National Park.
It's one of the main reasons. We have about 26 different hiking trails, everything leading from easy to backcountry hiking to go out to your campsite. But we also do a lot of morning hikes and guided hikes to make sure that everybody can get out and experience as many as they'd like.
The hike Courtney and I are on explores mixed Acadian forest and the old homesteads of Acadian pioneers.
So the trail that we're walking on now is actually the only link that at one time existed to kind of link in the people who lived here in the park and lived back in Shetty Camp.
Okay, and those would have been Acadians.
Acadian families. So 30 families lived between the Shetty Camp River, which you came over when you came in, and another French mountain would be about the look-off area where everybody was in between. So here you're finally going to get to see the beach.
Courtney and I pause briefly at a look-off overlooking the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Then it's time to head back.
So what kind of wildlife can people see when they're hiking these trails?
There's a few different kinds, but one that everybody wants to see is probably our moose.
I'd love to see a moose.
So our Skyline Trail is known for being one of the ones that we see them the most.
I didn't get to see any moose today, but it was a great hike and I've worked up an appetite. Luckily, I have a lobster boil to attend. I meet up with Sabrina Lapointe, another heritage presenter from Parks Canada, on the shores of Le Bloc Beach, a gorgeous empty beach surrounded by dramatic cliffs.
I would like to welcome you to our lobster boil, Laura.
Oh yeah, well thank you, Sabrina. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yes, me too.
This is a signature experience available at the park. Sabrina scoops up ocean water for the lobster pot. While we wait for it to boil on the propane stove, she shares some facts about lobsters.
I'd like to show you one of the lobsters here we have for tonight. Let's take a sneak peek if it's a female or a male.
The underbelly of our lobster is soft, which indicates it's a female. Male lobsters have a hard underbelly.
And look how her tail is wide.
Okay.
It's wide for her to be able to keep all the eggs under her tail. There's about thousands of them. And they're tiny, tiny. They're all black. Apparently, they don't see really good with their eyes, even if they have big eyes. And their teeth are in their stomach.
Your water is probably boiling, so let's
have a look for sure.
Let's get cooking.
With the water boiling, Sabrina drops our lobsters into the pot. While we wait, it's a chance for me to learn some Acadian history.
So in this area here, Laura, we did have a fishing village. Acadian were living here around, and when the park was created in 1936, people were moved out, so they were expropriated. So now they moved in a fishing village that's called Shitscan. 6 days of the other weeks, they would go and just fish here at Le Bloc to get their lobster and crab. So it's a nice place, and we want to do a lobster boil here at Le Bloc because for us, Acadian, it's the home of it's their land. It was their land, so it's a nice place to have a lobster boil.
Our lobsters are ready. Sabrina places them in a bowl and we walk to the shoreline.
So Laura, now it's time to go shock the lobsters, and that's a great thing to do because it's going to take the meat out of the shell and they're going to detach. So it's going to make it way easier to eat after.
Okay.
I grab one of the lobsters and swish it in the cold ocean water.
It's good like that?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
So now we're going to go and enjoy our lobsters.
The sun is starting to set by the time we sit at our picnic table.
So Laura, here I have a nice setting for you. I have freshly rolls here, fresh butter, and now I'm sure you're really excited to get into that lobster. So let me show you how.
It smells good. So how do I start?
I like to start with the claws. So all you need to do is take the arm and then you break it off.
Sounds easy, but the lobster shell is hard.
I'm going to detach the thumb part.
Yeah.
Ouch, the lobster's kind of sharp.
Yes, it is.
Luckily, Sabrina has some tools on hand. One that looks like a nutcracker and a lobster pick, which has a long thin metal fork on one end and a slim scraper on the other.
Now, the favorite part of the lobster, a lot of people do enjoy the tail.
Yeah, how do we get into
So
that?
that's what we're gonna do. I'll show you this. So you take the tail and basically you kind of give it a twist like this.
We get at the tail meat by pulling it clean off and crushing the shell.
Just crunch it together?
Crunch it together.
Wow, that's really hard.
Yeah, it is a bit hard. And then you, of course, you have your spiky. All right, that's a good noise. Like
Got a
if
good
you-
crunch sound
yeah.
there.
Honestly, I think I prefer my lobster meat already in chowder or sandwich form, but I couldn't have asked for a better host or setting.
If you want, you can try it and enjoy it with butter.
Dip it in this freshly melted butter here. Mmm. It tastes so fresh, and I think part of it is just this setting here on the beach.
Yeah, I know.
With the sun setting
Yeah.
right next to the ocean where we got the water to cook the lobster in. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I know. It's a really nice.
Coming up after the break, we visit another lovely Cape Breton beach, which happens to be one of the most accessible.
We were the first in Atlantic Canada to offer this type of access to the beach.
Stay tuned. Postcards from Cape Breton Island will return. This is Postcards from Cape Breton Island. Cape Breton's miles of shoreline make it a beachgoer's paradise. One of the most popular sandy spots is Inverness Beach, known for its warm, shallow water. It's also one of the most accessible beaches in Canada, so we couldn't miss checking it out. I meet up with Rosemary McDonald, president of the Inverness Development Association, who tells me that the project started modestly and then took off.
We did a reconstruction of our boardwalk, and on that boardwalk we have the toe kick rails for persons with wheelchairs. We have extra seating areas and ramps along the boardwalk. We put in additional stairways for persons to be able to go down onto the beach, and one is an actual ramp that takes you right onto the beach. So that's where we started with the project, and at that time we thought, what more can we do to make the beach more accessible, to get the person from the ramp down. And we knew about these beach mats.
But it was Callum McQuarrie, co-chair of the Inverness County Accessibility Committee and pictured here, who helped push the project further along.
And he had researched all the beach chairs, the lifts, and the walkers and that. The other piece that we decided to work on were our washrooms. They were not accessible, so we thought, well, if we're going to be inclusive, let's look at the washrooms.
So far, they've had great feedback.
We were the first in Atlantic Canada to offer this type of access to the beach and that. So we received numerous calls from across Nova Scotia from various municipalities wanting to know about what we've done. We had people traveling from Halifax that were in a wheelchair but haven't been on the beach in 40 years. And they'd come here and they would get into the lift, into the floating chair, and go down and spend the day on the beach. People were crying. It was a very emotional, when we opened at first, it was so emotional when you could hear the feedback from them and what it meant to them.
Lori Cranton, another member of the Inverness County Accessibility Committee, saw the value in the project.
I've had a disability for the last 40 years, or just about 40 years, and have been very involved in volunteering in my community and communities. And being a wheelchair user and someone with a disability, one thing I always missed was being able to access the beach. When I was a teenager growing up, the beach was a great place to go and have fun. And when I saw this opportunity, both for myself but for a lot of other people, I said, what a great idea, and I was behind it 100%.
Lori and I take a stroll along the accessible boardwalk that overlooks the beach. Lori tells me that the support from the local community has been a huge part of the project's success.
It's been a great example of a community coming together and how it can really work. And I go back to the volunteers. And it's not just building this infrastructure and putting it here, it's maintaining it as well.
Yeah.
You can build all the nice stuff you want. If you don't have the community and the basis behind it to maintain it, it's not going to last very long.
And they've gotten some great recognition.
Back about 6 months ago, I guess, I was in Truro for municipal meetings. I'm also a municipal councillor, and accepted an award that came to me, but I see it as an award to the committee and all the hardworking people that put their time and effort into this project. And it was awarded by the Rick Hansen Foundation, by Rick Hansen himself, who was in the area at the time, and it's called the Difference Maker Award.
Laurie sees that difference.
You talk to some people that have not been able to access the beach, and just the first time coming back after many years of not being able to access the beach due to their disability, being able to get there now, it just opened up another door that really allowed them to go back to those experiences many remember as younger people.
Fortunately, other beaches in Atlantic Canada are starting to become accessible. As I walk the beach alone, I reflect on how important it is for everyone to have access to these spaces. But I can't stay for too long. I'm headed to the community of Judic and the Celtic Music Interpretive Centre. The goal of the centre is to collect, promote, and preserve the Celtic music of Cape Breton Island. A big part of what they do is offer live, traditional music performances. I'm here for a cup of tea, a bit of blueberry cake, and what Cape Bretoners call a ceilidh. Alan Dewar, the centre's music director and keyboard player for today, tells me more.
A ceilidh is the Scottish Gaelic word for a visit or a gathering.
Right.
And a lot of times as part of that, there would be music involved when somebody would go visit somebody in the house, and a lot of times through hospitality, people would serve food or drink, they may dance, tell stories, all that sort of thing.
Music is a huge part of Cape Breton culture. ceilidhs happen in bars, community centres, and homes all over the island.
It's an essential part of my background. I've grown up with it, and it's where I learned essentially everything I play, because this music for the most part is an oral tradition, meaning it's been passed down from generation to generation. So when you go to a ceilidh, you're learning from people, not necessarily by means of taking a lesson, but just by absorbing the culture.
On stage with Alan today, playing the fiddle, is musician Donna Marie DeWolf.
Well, the fiddle is the lead instrument, so we have all these tunes that kind of go on in our heads, but I choose them as I'm going along. The sets are always different, and the piano player is, he's just along for the ride, I guess you would say. Some of the sets start off slow, and then they gradually pick up pace as they're going. So in that kind of set, you would normally start with a march, and then you go into a strass bass, and then into reel. So there's 3 different tune types to build a set. And then there's another kind of set that's in the 6/8 time signature, and it's a jig. So you would play several jigs together.
I had a great time at the ceilidh, but all this music has me a little parched. I could use a wee dram. Luckily, I know a place. The Glenora Distillery in Mabou is North America's first single malt whiskey distillery. Nestled in the rolling hills of the Highlands, its crisp white buildings, babbling brook, and lush flower gardens create an idyllic setting. I meet up with Whisky Ambassador Donnie Campbell, who offers me a VIP tour and tasting.
This brook that we're walking over, is this where the water comes from that you...
This is why we're here. It's McClellan's Brook, and the water comes down from the Mabou Highlands. And as it does, it's running over the roots of the apple trees, the maple trees, and filtering through the granite and the marble rock, and it's just becoming this really nice source of water.
We start our tour in the distillery. Donnie shows me where the barley used to make the whiskey is processed.
So Donnie, can you tell me about this room that we're in now and what part of the process happens here?
Sure, this is the still house, and the still house in many distilleries is considered the cathedral, and it has these big windows all around us. It has these big stills in here, and this is the process where we're really taking the mash that's been turned into a wort, and we're distilling this down. It was a 9% alcohol, and we're distilling it down, and we're going to make eventually a 70% alcohol from here by separating the alcohol from the water.
How important is water in the process and the source of water that you're using?
Well, there's very few ingredients used in making single malt whiskey. There's water, barley, yeast. There's certainly an influence from the copper in the copper pot stills. There's wood from the barrel, and then the biggest ingredient, I think, is patience and letting it mature.
Right.
But water, that's where it starts.
Glen Breton Rare 8-year-old was the distillery's first single malt whiskey. Since that time, they've introduced many other products from 10-year-old to 25-year-old.
This is Whiskey Warehouse, and we have 3 of them on site. And this is where we're going to take that product from the still that went into the oak barrel. We're going to take it and we're going to put it inside the warehouse.
The warehouse is filled with hundreds of whiskey barrels.
This is a traditional whiskey warehouse. It has a dirt floor, it's cinder block walls, it's porous basically. Right. So we want it to be porous, we want it to breathe, but yet we want to be able to contain it as well. And as the product is sitting in oak, and oak is used in the industry because oak as a hardwood has that ideal porosity to allow the product to breathe. And as it's breathing, it's escaping from the barrel, it's going into the cavity of the warehouse, it's kind of breathing out through these walls on the ground, and as it does, it starts pulling in some of the environment from around the warehouses. And that's why it's so important, the surroundings around a warehouse, because it will pick up, or in theory anyway, it will pick up some of that influence. So we're going to get into a barrel and we're going to taste a cask strength whiskey. Okay. So it started off at 70%, and this is probably somewhere around a 62% alcohol. So this is barrel number 17 from 1997.
Okay.
Donnie uses a wine thief, which is a long glass tube, to extract liquid from the barrel.
So, this is for you.
Okay. So now we get to
the
good part.
Exact, finally. So, okay, so we're going to take a sip, and then we're going to follow it up with another sip, and it's going to be hot.
Yeah, right in the back of the throat.
Now,
you can feel that.
Now do it again.
Ooh, now I've got it on my tongue and all in my mouth, yeah.
Welcome to my world.
I mean,
my shocking?
My chest and my mouth and my throat are all burning a little bit.
Okay, so that's the alcohol. Mm-hmm. And the alcohol's putting it in an issue category.
Yep.
Really, it's almost too much. Mm-hmm. And so what we want to do is we want to knock down the alcohol or knock out that issue a little bit so that we can enjoy the flavors a bit more. Now, we did get some water, or I brought some water up with me. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to take just that little bit of water, just keep your glass where it is, and I'm going to just put that much water in it.
Very little, just a couple of drops.
Nothing. So, taste it.
Yeah, it cuts it down a bit.
Now, mine is certainly where I would like it.
Right. And what flavors are you getting?
I'm certainly getting like apple, I feel, is coming through. I find that apple comes through in most, if not all, of our whiskeys. I'm also getting some maple.
Yep.
Let's just finish up our sips here. And okay, so from this process though, now I just want this glass to dry out a little bit before we leave it. Okay. So, but from this point though, we would, because this is cask strength, now if we were going to bottle this, we would take it down to the distillery, we would figure out what the alcohol content is, then we would go out to the brook, we would add water to it and bring it down to 43% alcohol.
Right.
And so that's what we would typically put in a bottle. And the reason why I wanted you to coat the inside was, yes, to get some of that flavor adhering to the sides. But now that it's been kind of left a little bit, start nosing it. And sometimes, it may not be there yet, yet, but sometimes you can get more aroma from an empty glass than you can from a full glass.
I mean, for me, there's a stronger sweetness that I'm smelling now.
It's coming through more because the alcohol's not there anymore.
It's not hitting you in the nose.
Yeah, and so all that's left is flavor.
Donnie, I could smell this glass all day, but I've got to get going. So thank you so much for teaching me a little bit about whiskey.
Again.
I'd love to.
Don't tell too many people about us, though.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Postcards from Cape Breton Island will return. You're watching Postcards from Cape Breton Island. Another thing Cape Breton is known for is coal mining. Although most of the mines are now closed, for centuries the industry shaped the land and the people, especially on the eastern half of the island. We're in the former mining town of Glace Bay to visit the Cape Breton Miners Museum. All of the museum's guides are retired miners, and my guide today is Sheldon Guthrow. We meet in the museum's historic village. Sheldon is dressed the part in his hard hat and work outfit.
Sheldon, can you tell me about this part of the museum that we're in right now?
This part of the museum is the old company store where the miners used to shop at. The company owned everything. So when the miners got their pay, they would be very little money in their pay. What they would have to do then would be go to the company store to do their shopping for their family. And they were allowed credit in those stores. Most of them ended up in debt. And that's the way the company set it up. And they figured the more that you owed them, the more they owed it you.
The village includes buildings depicting the homes of miners and the life of miners' families from different time periods.
And this was during the period from 1920 to 1929. And it was very tough. And well, the miners, they went to work. They worked 6 days a week and they worked 12 hours a day.
And so you worked as a coal miner.
I worked as a coal miner for 32 years.
And what were your days like?
It was tough and it was scary when you first go down underground. I mean, you don't know what you're getting into. Of course, you see a lot of things when you're underground, and I've seen quite a bit. Like, I've seen guys getting killed. I've seen guys, bad accidents, guys getting hurt. I was hurt once myself. I was buried one time, and I ended up, I had 7 broken ribs. But you get over that and you just come back and you go back underground and forget all about that and do it all over again.
One of the highlights at the museum is the opportunity to get an underground tour of a coal mine. Wearing a hard hat and a poncho to keep me dry, I head with Sheldon down a dimly lit tunnel.
Okay, Laura, now we just stepped into one of our coal seams here.
And a coal seam is just like a layer in the earth where the coal is.
Yes, it's like a block of coal. Our coal seams, they're 30 miles wide, okay, and they run out underneath the ocean. And we've mined out there close to 6 miles under the ocean.
The next spot Sheldon takes me to is a door with a grim history.
This is where young boys would be working in the coal mines back in the earlier days. And the young boys were as young as 8, 9, 10 years old. They were called trapper boys, and what their job would be sitting here all by themselves, alone, and mostly in the dark because they never had a light like I had. We're way back before those lights were invented. And his job would be to wait here, and when he would hear from the other side, well, that meant for him to get up and open the door, okay? And then he'd open the door, and the horse would come through, and the driver with a box of coal. And when they come out here, then he'd have to close the door very quickly because you don't want the gas to back out here. And then when they went back inside, then he'd sit here by himself again, and he'd wait for the next fella to come through.
When did they stop using like boys that were 8 or 9?
Well, that big strike in 1925, after they went back to work, the boys were not allowed to go back underground. That's the only thing they got out of that strike, really. But before that, every mine had little boys 8, 9, 10 years old.
We make our way through the door and Sheldon guides me deeper into the mine.
Okay, Laura, now what I'm showing you now, this is a little room where 2 miners actually done the mining. This is the machine here that they used back in that air, okay? And it's a radio machine, and it's driven by compressed air. And the 2 guys would set it up,
This machine would cut an opening in the coal, would cut a channel in the coal as you see there. When they got it all cut out, they would take the machine down and they would use another machine we'd call the jackhammer, and they would drill holes in the face that they just cut, and then they would blast it, and they would have a big pile of coal here, and then they would actually have to load it in a box with a shovel.
Sheldon's first-hand knowledge made my tour very memorable, but I have to say that after about an hour underground, I am more than ready to head to the surface. Cape Breton's coal mining culture is perhaps most alive in the music of the Men of the Deeps, a choir made up of active and retired coal miners. We've been invited to the Louisburg Playhouse where the men will be giving a concert. They've let us in early to hear the sound check.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Men of the Deeps.
They're an impressive bunch. As they enter the dark concert hall in coveralls and hard hats and lit only by their headlamps, I feel like I could be back underground.
Men on rakes, they climb on board, traveling under ocean floors. They sweat and swear till the work is done. It's the miner's son.
During a break, I sit down with Tony O'Coin, the singer-songwriter of A Miner and a Miner's Son.
Well, I had 25 years coal mining. My dad was a coal miner. My both grandfathers were coal miners. My two brothers were coal miners. So I just followed them. My father had one arm, and he lost it in the mining accident, and he went right back to work. And I couldn't understand why he would ever do that, right? But now I understand, because when I started the mines, when I got up in the morning, I couldn't wait to go. The work is hard, but I wouldn't trade the fellowship that I got with these guys. I just wouldn't. Don't forget those men below who toils in the coal.
The men range in age from mid-30s to late 70s. They've performed all around the world, sharing songs about life as a Cape Breton coal miner.
From dusk till dawn with a pick and a shovel.
Can you tell me about the song that you wrote, A Miner and a Miner's Son?
The Miner and the Miner's Son is a song about my dad. And it's a song about all dads that work the mines. We honor our dads. We do that in the mines.
What do you hope that people take away when they come to a Men of the Deeps concert?
I hope we never lose our heritage. This is our heritage. It's a part of me since I grew up. I grew up in a coal mining town. I grew up in a company house. I grew up with coal all around me. It heated and protected our people, and was very, very important. And we're just keeping it alive, right? We're just keeping that heritage alive. God bless the miners, everyone. I'm a miner. I'm a miner's son.
Listening to the Men of the Deeps live in concert is the perfect end to our adventure. Traveling around Cape Breton Island is a wonderful experience. The food, the music, and the natural beauty make it a special place. But it's the people, with their big hearts and open arms, that make it unforgettable. Host Laura Bain, producer Wendy Purvis, editor Andrew Pickup, videographers Andrew Pickup, Sergio Vera Barahona. Media Accessibility Specialist, Simone Cupid. Audio Post, Mark Phoenix. Graphics, Mike Smith. Apprentice, Alex Kronstein. Senior Producer, Michelle Dudas. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2019, Accessible Media, Inc.